and share my screen. So if you're on witness protection or something like that, just feel free to keep your camera off, okay? I thought that was one. Come on, everyone. All right. So what are we doing today? We're doing some contract training. As my wife would say, I got way too many windows open. So let's start for the newbie. Okay. Andrea, just let me call you after this and we'll talk about orientation. So you're kind of orientated to the Florida HomeSmartness. Oh, let me turn off my camera. Hold on one second. There we go. Okay, forms. Okay, so I'm in my form simplicity. I don't use transaction desk. Not that I have, so you can ask me some questions about transaction desk, but I'm just not very fluent in it. I guess they had a free e-sign thing, but then they made people pay for it. So we one day when form simplicity crashed for days, actually, I had signed up for transaction desk and started using that. To me, it seemed easier. I wanted to switch to that, but I got vetoed by my wife and she said no. So that's my story and I'm sticking to it. So if you're just, it's best to create, oh, you know what? We're going to go through a template and everything like that. So Brenda's going to show us how to create a template, right? Right, Brenda? Crickets. Come on, Brenda.
I'm sorry, I'm brushing my teeth. I got an appointment at 10:30. So
you know what they say about multitasking, right?
what did they say? I'm listening though.
They say you're doing two things poorly. Multitasking was a term invented for computers. That's the whole purpose. A human being is meant to do one thing at one time.
Well, I can't go to my appointment with.
Very true. I agree with that. You should be brushing your teeth.
Bad teeth. So.
Very true. And I 100% agree with that. I'm a big toothbrusher. My kids are always like, Gaga. We got to brush our teeth again. Yes, my kids call me Gaga, like Lady Gaga. It's her and me. That's the only two. We're the only two famous Gagas that you know. All right. So let's try to do this because I don't know how to do an archive, shared transaction, task list templates. Let's try that. Doesn't sound right, but create a task list template. Okay, personal.
Well, that's not what it is, Jeremy.
No?
It's
okay,
not.
Penny. Show me, Penny.
Well, I can't, but
yeah, you can. I can give you control.
Okay, well, I believe you go to transactions.
Oh, okay.
I mean, excuse me, blank forms.
Blank forms.
I think there's a couple places.
Different ways to do it. Yeah.
Okay, and then you see where it says form packages. I'm assuming you're trying to make it a template.
I'm trying to make a template. Oh,
yep.
Okay.
Okay. And then
new package.
Yep. And then you go to what you need in it.
Okay.
And that was a question that, since we're here, do we have anything in writing what is supposed to be included in all of our packages, like say the condos, the single family, vacant land? Do we have any kind of checklist like that?
Yes. Can you remember I showed that to you in RSA?
Wait, hold on. Everybody else wants to know too.
I'm sorry.
All right, so I'm going to show them. Thank you, Penny, for bringing that up. Okay, because if you have the questions, somebody else does as well. Maybe Brenda showed you once, but repetition is the mother of skill, right? That's how you get good at brushing your teeth, right?
Right.
All right, I'm in a goofy foot. Okay, so you go to your RSA. On the left-hand side, you click on Documents. Oh, is there anyone here from Florida Best Quote? No? Yeah? No? Okay. All right. Downloads. Okay, so broker required documents right here.
Okay.
So let's say we have more forms in here. It's 2-3 years later. You could always go to the search and type in broker or required or documents, any of those three. And then it will have a 4-page document. There is one error on there. So on here. So please let me point it out. Okay, where it says not required but recommended. Required. Let's do it. It's a seller's disclosure for a condominium. Okay. Because disclose, right? Okay, but this is all of it. This is right here. Okay, whether you're doing vacant land, residential construction, new construction, commercial sales, residential rentals, referrals, outgoing, incoming, anything like that. It's all right here. Okay, any questions about that before I move on? No. Okay, good.
Thank you.
All right, Penny, lead us the way here. We're gonna call this broker docs. Oh, look, I already got one. Okay, no broker document checklist has been created. They're wrong. Okay, they're wrong. Just not in here. All right, so what did I do? What did I do, Penny?
I don't know what you did.
Okay, so I think I already created one of these. I don't know why.
Well, put number 2 then, so you have a blank one. Then.
There you go. I like this. Look at that. I like this so much better because I'm learning so much more this way.
I think you forgot to save it. That's why you had to go back.
Well, but I hit, whatever. Okay, but let's do buyer docs 2, like that, personal. What's the other? There's a drop down here. Nothing, and it does nothing. Okay, and I'm hitting it, right? This, I have your permission to move forward. Okay.
Yes.
All right, successfully created. Where, how do I select the forms?
Well, you got to go back down there, click on that,
Oh, options.
create a transaction.
Create a transaction. Well, what about options?
Well, I
It seems
can't
like-
see that because the pictures are in the way. Now, I've never done this, so I'm just kind of
Okay.
playing it through.
Update form packages. No,
That
that
would-
doesn't work. Let's
That
try
would be if there was any documents in there that were not, that you had already, and they were updated. That's where you hit that, and it would update the forms that are supposed to be used now.
Okay.
I believe.
No, that sounds right. Okay, so apparently we just have to add things to
Add-
this,
Yep, add forms,
right? So add blank forms.
and then go look where you want to go,
Mhm.
and then put what you want to look at,
Okay.
Yep. And then search.
Search, thank you. Okay, so
And-
there's 3, hold on, learning moment. There's
Yep.
3 as is when I type in as is, right? Who can tell me besides Brenda or Penny, because they're the learning sharks this morning, you learning sharks, which one I should select? Top, middle, or bottom?
Walk around there right now.
The top,
Top. Yes, Paula Parker Williams. You get
we
a-
don't use Chris over here at all.
Why is that?
I don't know, because I was told too long ago, we just don't use it. It's a different type of contract, and you don't really mix their addendums with the as-is contracts. You try to stick with FAR or FAR bar.
Okay, now,
Now,
Ooh.
Broward, St. John's, some of the other markets in the state, they do have different sets of contracts, so that's different.
now who decides typically, right? Who
Maybe your
decides?
boards, maybe your boards.
Sometimes it's
But
the
I've
agent.
written in St. Johns County and they've taken my as-is contract. The state contract, I think everyone has to take them. They can't refuse them.
That's what I've heard too. Yes.
Well,
Right.
This is the thing, everyone. Okay, if I'm filling out, right, what documents am I filling out ahead of time? Let's start with that. What documents am I filling out ahead of time that would possibly negate the as-is contract?
Buyer agency?
No, if I'm the listing agent.
Oh, you're the listing agent.
Yep, I'm the listing agent. I meet with my client. I'm having them fill out a listing agreement, right? Let's look. Let's check it out. We got a form thing right here. Why create the wheel and think of it all off the top of our heads, right? So This is residential listing. It's the very first one. So single family townhome, this is the docs I use. So I need an exclusive right to sell listing agreement, transaction broker ERS 18B. Sometimes people use 18TB. Sometimes people use the ERS 18TN, which is consent to transition to transactional broker. You don't have that permission from your broker. You have to start as a transactional broker. Okay, that's why this is the right one to use. Now, copy of the MLS sheet, seller's disclosure, lead-based paint disclosure, others disclosures like HOA, association community disclosure. I just give you a really big hint. Let's say it has an HOA, okay? And I use the addendum B, HOA association community disclosure. Which contract am I telling you to use in the realtor remarks?
Well, the as is residential, if it's HOA.
Yeah, you can only use, if I, as the listing agent, use the homeowners association community disclosure B, the letter B, right? Then that is it. You have to use the as is because that one coincides with that.
This is what said, this don't mean we speak by it.
Okay. Reginald, if you don't mind muting, you got background noise going on? Okay, let me show you what I'm talking about. Reginald, wake up. We can all hear you. Sorry. Had to
At the
get-
end of the day, we're supposed to use all of the documents that say FAR/BAR.
Yep, absolutely, Jennifer. Thank you.
Which stands for obviously the Florida Association of Realtors, and then together with the attorneys.
I thought it stood for FAR/BAR.
Yeah,
Jeremy,
FAR/BAR.
I'm just kidding. That's the abbreviation. Yes, Paul.
I'm gonna
Um,
beat you up, Jeremy.
the HomeSmart RSA dropdown for the forms we're to use, why isn't the wire fraud in there? Because we are required to use that also.
For the listing agreement?
Well, you have to do it in a listing and a buyer, what I understand.
No,
Because they
man.
wire funds to buy sellers and buyers.
Well, maybe at the end of the transaction, but we're not accountable for those funds. So on the listing, you're absolutely correct. We're not responsible for the wire fraud
Okay.
prevention notice. On the buyer side, yes. On a regular purchase, where did it go? I think I passed it.
Thank you.
Residential resale, okay? New construction as well, right? Anytime you're representing a buyer, you need the wire fraud prevention notice. And what is this? This is just saying, hey, there's a lot of scams going around out there. And if your buyer is not careful, they could wire the funds to a scammer. Okay, does that make sense? I know all my vets out there get it, but any new people on this call, any newer people on this call, I want to hear from you. Does that make sense?
Yes, makes sense.
Okay. All right. So right here is the wire fraud prevention notice right here, right? Earnest money receipt and the wire fraud prevention notice right here. Because we as transactional brokers are required to be accountable for all funds. That's right here. Okay. So Freddie and I tried to create this to
Can I
make,
ask a question?
yes, please. I love questions.
The documents that you use, are they not preset, pre-drawn? So we should be relying on these documents as we're not attorneys. So are we having to point this out to the buyer regarding their earnest money? Are we actually saying to them XYZ, this is going to escrow or this is going to the broker? Do we have to explain all of this, or is this taken as read? Because I would imagine legal documents that we have to use, we're not creating or going over them as such. We wouldn't be allowed to do that.
Well, you can, it depends on what kind of agent you want to be. Okay. You can, and it depends on what kind of client you have, right? So you can go through and read literally word for word what's there, what's in the legal print. Okay. Me personally, I do take my clients by the hand a lot. and I explain what they're filling out, what blanks that they have, what's important to them, what deadlines that we have when this is fully executed, so they understand the process and the road ahead. Okay, but if they say,
Okay. Yeah.
if you read them something or they read something and they're like, I don't understand, it's not clear, what does that mean? You are required to say, I'm sorry, I'm not an attorney, I can't give you a legal explanation. Okay, if you still have questions beyond what I can explain, which is just basically reading what's there, then I advise that you seek legal counsel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
so you're very welcome. You're very welcome. So we're creating this template, but I also want to make sure we're going through and explain, like going through the actual as-is contract, right? How to write it up. So when you go through, now there's a couple of different ways to open up the as-is. Okay, this is partially why I almost never use the templates. My wife does, I don't. I'm sure there's a way to do it the way she does it. Okay, but simply when I'm going to make an offer on a property, I pull up the property first, and then I go to Form Simplicity or Transaction Desk, and it will port all of the information over. Okay, see, this is filling out the street address, the legal description, the county, the parcel ID, the county parcel ID, year built, bedrooms, bathrooms, everything like that. So you don't have to go and type all that in. Pretty cool, huh?
But there's a way to do it too while you're in the package thing. At least that's what I read or
Okay.
saw yesterday.
Okay. So let's add this to our package. Let's first create this template. And let me talk a little bit faster because, oh, here we go. So this is added to our template. Okay, so I'm doing it as is. Let's say I'm writing up an offer for this 1981 single family home right here. Michelli dropped out on me. What else do I need? Let me give you a hint.
You need a seller's disclosure. I mean, well, no, you don't. You don't need the seller's disclosure.
The seller's disclosure. Well, yeah, I do. It should be filled out, right? Not everyone fills it out. As a buyer's agent, you are not required. Lead paint, I like where your head's at, Rita, but what's the magical age for lead paint?
78.
78. Thank you. Okay, so I don't quite need lead-based paint yet, but you see here,
HOA.
HOA. Yeah. So if I'm writing up an as-is, which HOA disclosure do I need?
Well, first, wouldn't you look and see if
Yeah,
the listings have the attachments? first?
Yes. So you're not going to be filling it out. It should already be filled out. Okay. And it should be under the attachments. Oh, look at this. Seller's disclosure and HOA disclosure. Man, what an amazing agent. So I can click on these, right? And let's do it. Let's pretend like we're writing up an actual offer here. Okay. So the reason I'm joking, what an amazing agent, because this was my listing years ago. Years ago. My wife and I actually lived in the house. We renovated while we lived there. This is my father-in-law's name and signature. He bought, my in-laws bought it and paid for all the renovation work, and we just helped do the work. We didn't do everything. We didn't do the roof or anything like that. But and Freddie has a problem, which I agree with this number 2 not being filled out, but he recently let it go. and he doesn't flag people for that anymore. Okay, but realistically, you should strive to fill this out. Okay, I'll give you an example. Working for a buyer for a property in Winter Garden. It's got a $500 capital contribution fee and a one-time whatever fee of like $125. Okay, so $625 my buyer didn't know about because this wasn't filled out properly. listing agents trying to push it off on the seller saying, well, the listing agent should, or the buyer, the seller should have filled that out, but they didn't. And I'm like, so anybody else can pay this besides my buyer because it wasn't disclosed. This is opening you up to a potential lawsuit. Oddly
Can I
enough,
ask a question, please?
let me finish this point and then we'll take your question. Okay.
Okay.
So they absolutely refused to pay this fee out of their pocket. And they said, okay, well, if your buyer still refuses to close, we're going to take our earnest money and put it back on the market. And she's like, no, it's okay. I'm about to pass the bar. This can be my first lawsuit. Don't even worry about it, Jeremy. I said, oh, okay. So at the end of the day, if your seller doesn't fill this out, if you don't advise them to fill this out, if I were you and this client meant anything to me, I would pay this out of my pocket, right? To keep the peace and to make sure that nobody comes back later and sues my client. Andrea, what was your question?
I think you covered it. I thought it was a seller disclosure by law to pass on the not only the association fees, but also the HOA should pass on rules and regulations related to HOA. I thought that was a seller's side of the market. Again, I'm learning. I didn't think it was for the buyer to be responsible for that.
No, it's not a buyer's responsibility. Okay. As a listing agent, you should make sure it's filled out and filled out correctly. Okay. If you you can put it on your seller and say you need to call your HOA and find out, or email them, or however you communicate with them, right? Sometimes they don't want to communicate with us, right? I always try to, wherever I can, provide as much value as humanly possible. Okay. My whole goal when I list or work with a buyer is that I'm going to do more for you than anyone ever would. And so when you think about picking up your phone to call an agent, you're like, oh, wait, no, Jeremy is the one that does more. And I tell them this. I say my whole goal during this transaction is to do more for you than any other agent in their life ever would. Because I don't want just your business. I want your referral business. I want all your friends and your family coming to me too. That's my whole goal. And they love it. And they normally at the end of the transaction, they say that. Yeah, I've had people say like, oh, we've had 6 or 8 agents in my lifetime, older folks in their 60s, 70s, right? And well, older than me anyway. I'm gonna get myself in trouble here. Older than me, that's all I meant. That's all I meant, people. All right. And they've said, yeah, you did more for us than all of them put together. Okay. I consider myself their real estate assistant when I'm working for them. Okay. Back to this. Okay. So we got that. This should be filled out. I want to make this point clear. If you're the listing agent, this portion should be filled out. Okay. And who's paying for it, right? Okay. Seller's disclosure, that's pretty straightforward. Okay. I don't care if they've never lived there. I don't care if it's an investment property. I get so sick of people saying, I don't know anything, I've never lived there. Really, you've owned the property for 10 years. Did you ever have any maintenance on the HVAC system? Did you ever replace it? Did you ever replace the roof? Yes or no? Right? Do you know anything about it? So don't let your clients off. Now, this is getting into listings here, but don't let your clients off by saying, I've never lived there, I don't know. Just answer it to the best of your knowledge. Right? This is important.
A quick question. Is it required if the person has passed away and the heirs are selling the property?
I would say just fill it out to the best of your ability. Right?
Hey, Jeremy, I'm going through one of those right this minute, and they've
Okay.
done the do not know. I just advise the buyer, you need to do a really good inspection, because we can't make the listing agents make their sellers do the right thing. We can do the right thing, but you can't make the party listing it give you what you would do.
Yeah.
Because people do touch the property. The heir has owned it for a year, so you know he's been maintaining it. I'd like to at least know that. So
Yeah,
that's my take on it. What's yours?
I talk to my dad on at least a weekly basis. He's one of my best friends, right? And he constantly tells me, "Oh, my basement flooded. Oh, I'm getting this fixed. Oh, my roof is leaking." I know. I couldn't tell you what year, when, but I could fill out a seller's disclosure with pretty fair accuracy. I know he's got a backup power system where if his power ever goes out, there's a natural gas system that kicks on. So I can fill out some stuff. Just what I would tell everybody is fill it out to the best of your ability. If you don't know, then put don't know. But if you're pretty sure, yes, no, that sort of thing, then fill it out. That's all. Okay. Anyway, back to the whole reason we're here.
Again, sorry.
Yeah, Andrea, please don't be
Is this
sorry.
not a requirement?
Is what not a
I
requirement?
think it's my British way. It's the spuds or the seller's disclosure. That's required by law. It's not something the seller can say, no, I don't know, and not fill it out. Well, that's what I thought.
It's not. It's
Isn't
required.
spuds required? It's a legal requirement.
It's
Part
not
of the
required by
selling
the
process.
right? But if your seller, I mean, think about it. It's there to protect your client from liability. Okay. So if they know anything about the property, right? Like Janice and I just moved out of a rental. HVAC system broke down when we were there. Is the guy really not going to say I didn't know about that? He paid for it. It was like two pounds low on Freon.
Just from a personal experience, well, my daughter's experience, she's moved into a house recently. The bath water doesn't work. The AC went within the first few weeks. The dishwasher went. The washing machine went. The stove went. Now, I mean, I'm absolutely new to this, and I said, what was on the seller's disclosure form? What was the condition of these things when you purchased them?
Yeah.
And she knew nothing about it. And I'm sure, I'm just bemused that this is not law, that even if they don't know, then they're not aware of problems or they've had a problem. Otherwise, a seller can sell you any piece of crap and get away with it. There must be some comeback.
Well, and that's where, well, I mean, at the end of the day, they could say, well, I didn't know, right? If the hot water heater, bath water, right? That's kind of what, I mean, it could be a valve or something like that. If, I mean, did your daughter not do an inspection?
Well, I asked, but her future husband bought it and he's been deployed now, and they've had many problems with this property, and I'm just new to this, and I'm encouraging her to bring back the paperwork and actually have a look. Now, they may be reluctant to do that, but this house they bought, as beautiful as it is an absolute wreck. And I said, there must be by law something for you to have a look at. Look at your inspection report. What does that say? And whether they just don't want to go there now, I don't know. But otherwise, this can just go on, and people can just continue doing this. And so there must be a safety net somewhere legally for this.
When you look
again,
at
I don't know. I'm just coming in.
When you look at the
Yes.
disclosure, it's more of your main things, like, is there a roof problem? Is the furnace and air working? Things like that. They usually don't have it about the stove, refrigerator, yes, the hot water heater. But through my years of experience, you can have an inspection and they say, hey, it's good, it's only 6 years old. And then the next day after a person moves in, the water heater breaks. So, I mean, some of that stuff just happens because of age.
Yeah, that's when I normally say, welcome to home ownership.
Right. And that's why
Yeah.
home warranties help on those particular things. You know,
So,
especially if
yeah.
you know, like the stove and refrigerator are old. That's when you say, okay, let's get a home warranty on it. But that's just
Yeah,
me. That's what I do.
absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
I
I like
just-
the home warranty route.
That's excellent. Thank you for that, ladies. But it just seems this is wide open to anyone. I mean, it makes you wonder what's the point. Is it academic having a seller's disclosure? If you can just get around it, why have it then?
Well, Andrea, there's always going to be those people who are trying to pull the wool over someone's eyes and, you know, hide things like
Yes, yeah.
asbestos or lead-based paint or, you know, something to that effect. But I would say maybe that's 1, maybe 2% of the population. You know, for the most part, people fill these out as much as accurately as possible. When I've sat across from people and they've had questions, and I'm like, just fill it out to the best of your knowledge. You know, I can help you fill it out. Just fill it out to the best of your knowledge, right? And
Yes, yeah.
and people do. They struggle because they're saying, oh, I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to fill this out improperly. I don't want to mislead someone. So I'd say, you know, 90+% of the population is yeah, they're just trying to do the right thing and disclose, so nothing comes back to bite them, right?
Mhm.
That's the point of this, right? But yeah, I
Yeah,
just, you know,
yeah.
wanted to drive the
I
point
just
across.
think they were naive. Yeah, I mean, I think they were naive. There was they bought this property in Florida while they were in Arizona, and I was going to say I just think that they were possibly naive, and they didn't have buyer representation. And I asked them, who represented you on the buying side, and they said nobody. They were negotiating for themselves,
Yeah,
which is such a bad way to go, in my opinion.
you're paying for that representation anyway. You know, any way you slice it, you might as well have somebody on your side. That's why I never I never saw the point of going directly to the listing agent by yourself.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I like when
Lessons learned. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for all the questions. This is great. This is great information. Thank you. So let's go through the as is now. So we need the seller's disclosure, right? Because that's attached and that's part of this. We need what else? It's in an HOA. So what do we need?
The HOA disclosure.
Thank you. We do not need a lead-based paint disclosure because it was built in 1981, right? Is there any other things? Let's say we're writing up an FHA offer. What do we need?
Financial disclosure.
Approval.
What was that, Reginald?
Financial contingency.
We need an FHA addendum, right? Let's say we're writing up a conventional offer. What do we need?
3 times not to call me anymore, y'all keep calling me. So I need to support you all. Okay.
Reginald, would you mind muting, please?
If we're going in contingent, the appraisal contingency addendum for a conventional.
Right, appraisal contingency.
Okay.
Let's pretend we're not writing this for an extremely hot property and they want us to. Reginald, would you mind muting, please? Thank you, sir. So let's pretend we're not going in on a super hot property and we haven't been instructed or there's some reason to, you know, keep the appraisal contingency in there, okay? So seller, buyer, all right, just gonna make this as generic as possible. Top line, that's where the seller's name go. It makes it pretty easy, right? Buyer, that's where the buyer's names go, okay? Now let's pretend that we don't, you know, have all this filled out. How do we find it? We hit here on the tax. And then what do we got first? The property address, right? Yes. So we got the property address. We can grab this a couple of different ways, right? What I would probably do is just grab it right here. Control C.
I normally grab it by selecting the MLS number and putting it in Forms Simplicity. And then you import the MLS data. That way it can bring the legal description, sometimes even seller's name and everything. So you're not copy pasting and going back and forth.
Okay.
Exactly. It cuts 5 minutes out of your time. It auto populates it if you
you're
start at the
really just
listing.
yes, and we're really just giving it a second view, really looking at it, because sometimes things don't populate. We can't rely wholly on technology.
Of course. Of course.
Just verify the legal. You always need to verify the legal because it's not always in real list.
That, yes. Sorry, Jeremy.
No, don't be sorry. I love all the additional input. There's more than one way to do this. Okay.
Me
legal
too,
description-
sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I love the input. Seriously.
No, I didn't want to, like, sorry for interrupting.
Oh, well, I want you to interrupt though. Oh, I put that on the wrong line. So legal
Okay, you see,
description.
because we don't want that to happen.
Yeah, see, I'm showing you what could happen and how you fix it. So legal description goes right here. Real property. The legal description is Greenbrier Village 9/1. Nobody cares. Okay. So then we're looking for the tax ID number. So we got it right here, 292408, blah, 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 right? Copy. Back, Control V is paste, scrolling down. Okay, so right here is where you put the personal property, okay? So we go back to the listing. Some of the stuff is standard. Let's look at what's standard real quick. Okay. We have range, oven, refrigerator, dishwasher, disposal, ceiling fan, light fixtures, drapery rods, and draperies, blinds, window treatments, excuse me, smoke detectors, garage door openers, thermostat, doorbell, television wall mounts, television mounting hardware, security gate, okay, and other access devices, mailbox, keys, storm shutters, protection items, and hardware. Okay, so now let's look at what's included. Okay, here it is. Okay, so dishwasher, disposal, dryer, gas water heater. I always think that's funny. Like, nope, taking the gas water heater with me. Microwave range. Okay, so let's copy this. So this is the way I always do it. I copy this. And then I'm like, okay, what's already in here? Right? Dishwasher right here. I don't need it twice. Some agents are picky about this. All right. I think it was gas dryer. I deleted something there. Okay, gas dryer. So that's staying with the house, but the washer is not. Okay. Gas water heater. I think it's silly because that's attached to the house. Microwave, that's not up top. Range is, that's the first one, range oven. Okay, so what's not included? Okay, so I think it's in the agent remarks. Okay, please note the washer and the interior and exterior fridge belong to the tenant, not to the owner. So it's not included in the sale. Okay, so the fridge could put garage fridge and interior fridge and washer. Okay. Just to be clear. So then we know what's coming with, we know what's staying. Okay. Some people will say, oh,
And this may seem so like, you know, like, oh, like nothing, but I'm gonna tell you right now, it is everything when you get to the closing table and you don't have something written on that list agreement that that seller mentioned to you that does or doesn't convey. It's so important, this part.
Yeah.
Deals do fall apart over washer and dryers.
yeah, or you're buying them washer and dryers just to
Or
make
you're
the deal.
buying them, correct, because you want to save the deal, correct.
Yeah. If you're the listing agent, you add, and there's no fridge, you absolutely make sure. As I'm saying this out loud, we got an accepted deal. and I know there's no fridge, but I'm not sure if we cross this out. So now I'm gonna backpedal and make sure that this is lined
Now
out.
now you're on offer up buying a
Yep,
fridge.
yep, offer up.
I just got a
Here's your-
contract accepted too, Jeremy. I'm sorry.
Here's your $100 black fridge that doesn't match the appliances. Good luck. Okay. All right, so let's say this property is listed at $284,000, which is what the list price was back 2 years ago. My mother-in-law is kicking herself now because it's worth over 400,000 now. So, Jennifer, what do you do? Like, you know, you're walking into a competitive offer situation. What would you do if the comps come out really nice and your buyer's like, hey, I really want this property. What do you think we should offer?
At what price?
284,000 is the list. And I'm like, I already told you, hey, we got multiple offers, you know.
Well, being that I got a good buyer, right, and that he has cash,
Yep.
some type of liquid, we're posing that buyer. If it's at 284, depending how comfortable my buyer is and where they are, I would tell them that they can go up in increments of 10. We can go up 10, depending how comfortable. If you're not comfortable with 20, we can go up to 15 and do an appraisal gap. So it's 285. I'm gonna put in an offer at 305. I am gonna have an appraisal gap from the actual list, list to purchase price. And I asked them how much comfortable they are, because even though I'm making the offer 15 or 20 over, it doesn't mean that my buyer has to pay that. I can put in the additional addendums that the appraisal gap is not going to exceed 5K. So in other words, that offer is what the offer is, but my buyer at the end of the day after appraisal is not going to give you no more than 5,000 over that.
Okay, so 305, right? The
I would
list
go
price.
over at least.
So you wouldn't use an escalation clause here?
No, escalation clauses right now is
Weak, right?
I have even been told by list agents on probably about 3 other occasions to not even use the escalation clause, to make the offer what it is and come in strong.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna put, I don't do the prices right is what I call that.
Okay.
Where
So,
the
thank
person
you,
next to me did 100 and then I'm like, oh, 101. I'm just going,
All right.
I'm going strong.
Paula Parker Williams, what would you do for earnest money here?
Well, given it's a fierce market, I would probably encourage my buyer to probably put up 10 right up. And after the inspection period, maybe an additional deposit of 5 or 10, depends on what's going on. But that's what I'm trying to do, because at the end of the day, you know, they're looking strong after the inspection and they're getting closer to closing and they get the money credited back anyway.
Okay. All right. So I like that. I like that a lot. And you guys, sometimes when I'm doing this, I'm doing 10%. If they're putting 10% down or they're putting 20% down, you know, I'm putting in $30,000 here. Because at the end of the day, that money's protected. You're just trying to show like, hey, we really want this. Okay. But I like Paula's idea with the 10 and 10 too. So I'm going to show you how to write that up. But this is where you put in,
I like that idea too.
this is where you put in the title information. And I'm just, whatever's plugging in here is what I'm pulling up, right? You put title information here, you get that from the listing. Now, you see this is a new category from when I had this listing here. So seller preferred closing company. Now, unless your buyer, I'm going to say this slowly because this is important and kind of a complex notion for someone that's new. Unless your buyer is willing to pay the title fees for the seller, which is typically $1,500, $3,500, right? You should use their preferred title company, the seller's preferred title company, which will be down here. Okay, where it says closing agent, everyone see that down here? Okay. If you have a preferred title company and the seller's like, the buyer's like, I want to make this offer sweeter, that's not going to affect the appraisal, and I want to pay their title fees. That's the offer we got last night for our listing. Okay. They're paying the seller's title fees. Like,
Can I make a
another-
point, Jeremy, on something I've noticed in working with agents all over the state in the past? It's different in different areas. Like they look at you crazy, but in my section of Stellar, whoever chooses the title agent pays the closing cost. So I don't normally pay attention to that at the bottom that the listing is chosen, because if you drop it in, they sometimes still expect you to pay the closing costs for your buyer. However, there's other markets that feel differently. They just choose it automatically. I've run into that a lot. Like I'm doing one down in Fort Myers now. And she said, why aren't you using mine? I'm going, okay, you know, it saves my customer money, but they don't get representation. If you're using a closing attorney, that's who they work for. Whoever is paying, that's who they work for. For buyers, it's worth the buyer paying because we have title issues left and right down here. I just wanted to add that for the newbies.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree. And you're right. I've experienced the same. I have sold in South Florida, where obviously it's within the contract as well, that the buyer's the one who picks their own closing attorney to do their side and their portion. So you're right. Even within the state of Florida, we have different kind of practices.
okay, so make sure if you don't know, you call your broker. I'm not one that knows all the different regions. Freddie's good for that. I don't know Larry's experience on that, but you know, if you call me up with that question, I'm gonna find out for you and get back to you. Please don't take me wrong. I just probably won't know it off the top of my head.
Or find out about our mentorship program.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to keep going because I want to get through this contract in the next 7 minutes. So, all right. So this is what we did here. So
with me and Paula on the line.
Paula and Jennifer need to hang up right now. No, just kidding. Additional
I
deposit.
gotta go anyway. I love you guys.
All right, love you too, Paula. Thank you.
I gotta go too. Bye.
It just
I
all
gotta
worked
go-
out.
I
It was meant to
I
be.
have to go accept this listing contract. I just got an offer. We're gonna accept it.
All right, go get it, girl. Thank you.
To add to
Bye.
what you said, call your broker about those issues. I don't even think the brokers can keep up with it because sometimes it's a brokerage that has that attitude. Like we might see a lot of certain brokerages that operate only a certain way and others. It's like some are only transaction brokers and some of them are out there as single agents. So it kind of falls in that realm. I think it's by experience by every deal, Jeremy.
Okay. So another thing that you could do to add on to what Paula was saying, if you don't know and your broker doesn't know and your mentor doesn't know, okay, you could always approach the listing agent and say, hey, I'm new to this area, or I want to see how you want things done here, right? I want to make sure I'm doing the things that you want them done, because it could be the individual listing agent. So it would be okay, even if you're new, right? Ask your broker first, mentor if you got one, and see what they say first. At the end of the day, you might just have to approach the listing agent and say, hey, I've never worked with you before, right? You don't want to necessarily admit I'm new and I don't know what I'm doing, right? Nobody wants to do that. So you say, hey, I've never worked with you before. How would you like this done? Right?
I believe on the contract too, in the other paragraphs, when it just talks about it, not filling in the blanks, it clearly, I believe, tells you if you put the seller's title company in, then you don't have to pay. But if you put your buyers in, then you're willing to pay the sellers. I believe it's in that part of the contract.
Yeah, we're going to go over that when we get to it. Okay. All right. So this is what Paul is suggesting. This is what we're doing. Line 36, additional deposit to be delivered to escrow agent within. So I would recommend, we're going to get to the home inspection a little bit later. I would recommend in this market, 5 to 10 days for the home inspection, if your client's not willing to waive the home inspection altogether. Now, if they're willing to waive the home inspection, they could still do a home inspection. I think it's like down on line 581 or something like that. They can still do a home inspection. They just can't ask for anything to be done, right? So it would just be their own checklist. Maybe they got that and they're like, oh, I want to do a home warranty. Now check with your home warranty before you sign up, because if it's a pre-existing condition, they may or may not cover it. Okay. So yeah. All right. So here we go. Additional deposit, $10,000 right here, 14 days after. So we can make sure that that's after the home inspection period. This is the percentage of the loan that they're taking. Okay, so then it automatically calculates for you. All right, we're just going to put 0 here. Try to fill in all your blanks, people. Okay. All right, so we have the 305 here. We have 10,000, 10,000, so $20,000 full deposit, right? And then we have 41,000 that they're bringing to closing, plus their closing costs. Some agents right now in this market, especially agreeing to an appraisal gap, which we'll cover later, will ask for proof of funds to make sure they have money to cover the appraisal gap, the down payment, and the closing costs. So don't be shocked if they say, hey, we're doing this, right? And we're bringing approximately $100,000. I want to see a bank statement or something that shows that your client has $100,000 in the bank. Okay, so this is date of acceptance. How long before the offer expires, right? Some people want to be hyper aggressive and say, I want it accepted today, right? That doesn't always work. And then ask yourself, does your client really not want it if it's not accepted today? They probably do, right? So you're just going to cause extra paperwork for yourself if you do it this way. So this being the 18th, I would probably put like 23rd, right? Because they're probably going to look at offers through the weekend and yada, 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 right? And do it that way. Okay, this one right here, closing date. Okay, I typically calculate 30 days from the date that they probably will accept. So I'm going to say June 23rd. Okay, conventional FHA VA. I might give a little bit more time for an FHA 203K loan, which is a construction type of construction loan for FHA. Okay, I always look for the little asterisk over here. If there's an asterisk, it means there's something to fill out here. Okay, check if the property is subject to lease or occupied after closing. Okay, so now remember from the remarks that this is technically tenant occupied, even though it's occupied by myself and Janice. But we just called ourselves the tenants because we're not technically the owners. But in this particular case, there was no lease in place. Okay, so it was not subject. So anytime you see that tenant in there, ooh, when does the lease expire? Right? And that's typically in here when it's a rented or a leased property. Okay, so then going back here. Okay, assignability. I'm just going to say, this is what I always check. May not assign this contract. Okay, if they're maybe looking to buy it, but switch it over to an LLC or an S Corp or something like that, but they don't have that set up yet, I would maybe check this box. But if they're just a regular old Harry Smith and Johnny Sue that are sure, it's two guys, buying this property for themselves, then it's going to be this one always. Okay, this one is typically some investor who's looking to flip it to somebody else. Okay, so this is the one I always check, unless maybe they're an investor and they don't have an LLC set up yet. So we're doing a financed offer, so this is the one to check, right? And it's if left blank 30 days. Now we've already calculated 30 days, so I'm putting in 27 days. So that complies with TRID because they need to have the CD, the closing disclosure, sent out 3 days prior to closing. Okay, so you want to make sure you actually count your days to make sure that you have 30 days, right? We probably have 31 if they accept it on the 23rd and sign it and send it back, because there's 31 days in May. I did 23rd of June, but still count them out, make sure. Okay, we're going to do a conventional loan. Again, no blanks. Okay, mortgage loan for purchase of this property. We're going to do a conventional fixed. All right, we put interest rate not to exceed. Okay, let's say the going interest rate right now is 5.25%. Seems just strange putting that. And then it's going to be a 30-year loan. Okay, they're going to apply for financing within 5 days. This one doesn't have a lot of explanation because I could spend another half an hour to 45 minutes doing a ton of explanation here. Okay, if you're looking for the video that has a ton of explanation on this, We have 4 hours of content where the attorney and us, all the brokers, are going through this content and explaining it all. Okay. All right. Again, I'm looking for the asterisks. Okay. Here's an asterisk. Here's an asterisk. I never ever fill these out. Okay. Purchase money mortgage. That's like if they're buying it from the seller. Assumption of existing mortgage used to be a thing. Right now, it's not really a thing, and it might become a thing. Although most mortgages are not assumable, right? But anyway, so right here, I'm writing NA. If I'm charging the buyer the transaction fee, I'm putting it in right here. Okay. Now, notice your transaction fee can be whatever you choose it to be. It can be $500 transaction fee, or let's say buyer will pay a $500 transaction fee to HomeSmart. Boom. Perfect. Okay. It doesn't have to be $350. That's your transaction fee. You can choose to charge that to the buyer or not. Okay. You can choose to charge them half, $175. Okay. That's completely up to you. You can choose $1,000. All right. That's completely up to you. Okay. Typically, whatever's in here for the next part, for the title, evidence, and insurance, 15 days. If it's a standard 30-day transaction, that's what I put in. If it's shorter than that, like if I'm writing up for one of my investors, I'm typically putting like 10 to 12, because typically it's a 2.5-week close. Okay, this is what we're talking about as far as the who designates the closing agent. Okay, if the seller designates the closing agent, the seller is paying their title insurance, the title insurance, the buyer is paying for their title insurance. Okay, if this one is checked down here, the buyer is paying for both. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm gonna imagine y'all said yes, and there's still people on this call. All right, so Miami-Dade County, don't worry about this unless you're in Miami-Dade or Broward region provision. Okay, anybody on the call that is?
I do sometimes.
Oh, okay, so you know all about this. I don't have to tell you. I personally never fill it out, except for this part right here. Again, blanks. I want to make sure that every single blank is filled in. So if you're offering, or you want the seller, or you're saying, hey, the buyer's paying, I don't know why you would have this on the contract, but I guess it makes it easier for the title insurance company to remind you, hey, we got a home warranty here, who's taking care of it, that sort of thing. So at closing, the buyer, the seller, NA shall pay for the home warranty plan issued by, you could put American Home Shield, which is one of our partners, or you can use 210 Warranty, which is one of our smart affiliates as well. You can put in American Home Shield up to $650, not to exceed $650, paid for by the seller. In this market, I wouldn't recommend that. So normally I'm just writing NA 0, okay? Unless that's important to my client. I would not put the abbreviation. I'd actually write out American Home Shield. Okay, line 194, seller shall pay installments due prior to, this is the one I always check. This is pay installments due after closing, you know, prior to closing. So this is about like special assessments or HOA fees, stuff like that. Okay, so seller pays it, seller shall pay in full prior to or at the time of closing any assessment allowed by the public body to be paid. So if it does have a huge special assessment, I was just talking to an agent yesterday, Michelle, who they're assessing a $10,000 special assessment, right? So maybe you want to put something like that if you know a special assessment is coming down the pipeline, right? And you've already discussed it and you're like, yep, the seller's going to pay it. So just read that carefully, figure which box that you want to check. Okay. Box A is shall pay up to closing and be responsible for all the installments. Okay. And then seller shall pay in full prior to closing, prior to the time of closing. Okay. All right. And again, like all this.
Jeremy, sorry.
Yeah.
have a question. What is the difference between the first one and the second one? Because I
Yep.
usually mark the second one, so I would like to see what is the
Okay.
difference.
So A says the seller shall pay installments due prior to closing, and the buyer shall pay installments after closing. Installments prepaid or due for the year of closing shall be prorated. Okay, so that's saying, let's say there's a special assessment of $200 per month, $2,400 a year, and you close right in the middle, June 30th. Okay, so if you check box A, that means, hey, the seller's going to pay $1,200, and then the buyer's going to pay $200 a month until, until next year, right? If you check box B, that means the whole $2,400 assessment, the seller is going to pay that. Okay, seller's going to pay all of it
Got it.
prior to closing. Okay, so
Okay.
box A is each person, each respectable buyer or seller is going to pay installments. Box B is seller's going to pay the whole thing. Buyer's not going to pay it at all. Okay. All right. Good question. Good question. Oh, I want to point this out. I don't even think this is in required documents, but it should be. Maybe it is. I think it is. Let's check. We ain't got time for that. Energy brochure. Every single person, you should be sending them, you should be giving them the energy brochure, because this right here says that you did. Buyer acknowledges receipt of the Florida Energy Efficient Rating Information Brochure required by section 553.996. F.S. Florida statute. Okay. So what does it look like? I know that's what you're thinking. So can't get it to copy. I don't want to type all this out. Let's see if I come on. That's weird, huh? So I think if no. Come on. Okay, that's not working. So Google that energy efficient rating information brochure. This is gonna bug me if I don't Google it. And I think it's in your forms. Let's see here. Continue blank forms. I think if I just search energy brochure, look at that. It's even right here for you. So when you send out to your client, so this should be in your packages, in your template, right? When you send this out to your client, you should send this. There's no place to initial, there's no place to sign, but according to the contract, the buyer is already saying that they have received this and they're they got it. Okay. So that's that. I was trying to kick us out of this one now. Okay, FERC seller's disclosure. We're not going to go through line for line what each thing means. Again, we got the detailed thing for that. This is the home inspection part. Again, I would only recommend 5 to 10 days for the home inspection. So let's say we do 10, because we got 14. We'll give another additional $10,000 deposit after 14. Okay. If you want to be more competitive, I would say 5 or 7. I definitely wouldn't put 10 in this market. Okay, we're getting close to the end now. Because all this stuff is just boilerplate stuff. And I never go over this with my client. Any blanks that I fill out, I go over it with them so they roughly understand what it means. Okay, so this is the boxes you're going to check. So 1981, no lead-based paint, right? We do want to have we're doing a conventional loan. If we're doing an FHA or a VA loan, we'd want to check this box, but we do need the appraisal contingency, F. Okay, there's a reason I keep saying that. Okay, we do have an HOA association, the B. Remember I was saying the letters before, B. Okay, and then some people, I don't do this, but some people put in seller's disclosure. I don't do that, but some people do. Okay. Appraisal gap. This is what I do. Buyer is willing to pay up to $10,000 over the appraised value not to exceed the purchase price. That's the next meeting I need to go to. So I got to finish this in the next 3 minutes. Does everyone understand that? This is the appraisal
Yeah,
gap.
everything's clear. That's good.
Okay. So it's in this market, sometimes they don't even want to see the appraisal contingency. Right. My belief is that it's cooling down a little bit and we don't have to make the offer so crazy. But when I think that, then we miss out on an offer. So go in with your best foot forward. You will not get a second chance with most listings.
So question, Jeremy.
Yep.
So this $10,000 over the appraised value not to exceed the purchase price, do they have to then show where that cash is coming from, or can they borrow it?
That's a good question. They might ask for it. It all depends.
Okay.
Right.
But be prepared that maybe if they're borrowing it, that they let that family member know.
Yeah. Well, also, right? How much money do we have here, right? We put in an offer for 305. We have $61,000 for the down payment. You have roughly 3%, which let's say another $10,000
Right.
for your closing costs.
Closing
And we have
costs, right.
another $10,000 here. So we have $81,000 that we're saying that our buyer has at their disposal.
Disposal.
So
But if they need the additional 10,000 and they don't have it, can I suggest that they, get in from another person?
yeah, gift letter, and they'll probably have to back up the gift
Right.
letter with a copy of their bank statement or something.
Okay, great. That's it.
All right, good question, Faith. Thank you. All right, and we've reached the end here, So sales associate, this is where you get to put your name. Okay, brokerage, that's HomeSmart. I know it says broker, but it's not Freddie, it's not Jeremy, it's HomeSmart. Okay, so anytime they're asking for the broker, they mean the name of your brokerage. Okay, you make sure you save that. Okay, then you go out. Let's go over the appraisal. Yeah, I gotta go, guys. I'm sorry. I got another meeting to jump on to. Thank you so much, everyone. Sorry we don't have more time for questions, but thank you. Andrew, I'm gonna call you later, okay?